If you're new to carpentry and never installed wood trim before, then this step-by-step video is exactly where you need to start. The window we're working on today is an older existing window that previously had drywall returns, which we removed in last week's video. But even if you're working on a new construction window, all the techniques that we're going to be covering today will work on those as well. The trim we're using today is 1x4 primed pine, which will be painted and installed with no mitered corners. Now, if you're using stain trim or a different wood that requires mitered corners, no worries, I'm going to cover mitered joints in this video as well. The first step is to figure out the reveals around the window. The reveal is the amount of space from the edge of the window jamb to where the trim begins, normally between 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I personally always use 1/4 inch, but this window has an existing blind that needs to go back, so I'm gonna have to go with a 1/2 inch reveal to make sure that this thing fits. To mark the reveals on the window, you can use a small piece of 1/2 inch wood or a combination square, marking the side jambs and the top jamb in a few different places. Just make sure once you get to the top upper corners, your reveal lines intersect, making a 90-degree angle. When it comes to the bottom reveal, it generally needs a larger space so that the lower sash can operate more easily. So in this case, we're going to go with a 1-inch reveal. Now that the reveal marks are all done, let's move on to the sill and extension jambs. The sill is the flat piece at the bottom of the window, and the extension jambs are the pieces of trim that extend the window jambs flush to the sheetrock. Let's start by finding the sill measurements. The simplest way to find the sill depth is to take a piece of casing and lay it flat against the wall. Then measure from the window jamb to the face of the casing. Here the measurement is 3 5/8. From there, add the amount of distance you want the sill to extend beyond the casing. Normally that's somewhere around 3/4 of an inch, giving this sill a total depth of 4 3/8. To find the sill length, we're going to use the 1/2 inch reveal mark that we made on the jamb and this little mock-up that I made of the extension jamb and the casing. Put the mock-up in place and line up the extension jamb side with the 1/2 inch reveal mark. Next, make a new pencil line on the right side of the trim, marking the finished position on the right side of the window. Once that's done, go ahead and make a mark on the left side of the window as well. Before we move on, I want to make sure that you see this 1/4 inch reveal on the mock-up, and it needs to be there if you're going to make one of these. And we're going to talk about making this reveal once all the extension jambs are up on the window. Now that both sides are marked, take the measurement between those two lines and transfer that to the sill. Then add 1.5 inches to that measurement for extending the sill beyond the casing, both to the right and to the left by 3/4 of an inch. After cutting the sill to length and width, it's time to make those sill notches. Now I know that's a lot of information coming at you all at once, but stay with me because once we get past building the sill, things are going to move a lot faster and be a lot less confusing. To find the notch length, locate the center line of the window and of the sill. Then measure from the window center line to the right stud, then center line to the left stud, deducting about 1/8 of an inch in each direction. Once you have both those measurements, transfer those to the sill by measuring from the sill's center line. To find the notch depth, measure from the jamb to the face of the drywall on the right and on the left, because sometimes those measurements are different. Then transfer those measurements to the sill. Now that we have the notch lengths and depths all marked out on the sill, it's time to move on to check the squareness of the window to the wall. To do that, place a speed square against the window jamb and adjust a T-bevel so that it's tight both to the wall and to the square. Now if I compare the T-bevel angle to the square, you can see that the wall angle is actually less than 90 degrees. So if I was to make a 90-degree perfect notch in the sill would fit tight against the jamb and the corner, but open up as it gets towards the end. Therefore, to get the sill to fit tight everywhere, always use the T-bevel angle along with your layout marks to draw the notches. To install the sill, line up both center lines and the 1-inch reveal marks on the jamb. Double check that the sill is actually square to the window, adjust with shims if needed, and fasten with finish nails. Now that the sill's all complete and everything is laid out, it's time to move on to building the extension jambs. But before I show you that, I just want to stop and just welcome anybody who's new to the channel and say that if you want to continue to learn with this, please consider subscribing to the channel and leave a comment below. Your voice is important to me. So let's move on to extension jambs. To get the width of the extension jambs, measure from the window jamb to the face of the drywall in 4 different areas. Most of the time the measurements are close enough that you can split the difference and use one number for all 3 pieces. To get the length of the two side extension jambs, measure from the sill to the upper window jamb reveal and add 3/4 of an inch, and you'll see why in a second. For the top extension jamb length, simply measure from the right reveal to the left reveal. Once the pieces are cut, assemble the unit with the top extension jamb between the two sides, and that's why we added the 3/4 of an inch. Glue and fasten everything with finish nails. To install, simply place the whole assembly in the opening, lining everything up to the reveal lines, and fasten with finish nails. As a word of caution, be careful not to let the nails push the extension jambs off your reveal marks. You might have to use wood shims or a pry bar behind the extensions while nailing. Next, go around the extension jambs and mark all the 1/4 inch reveals like you saw on the mock-up. You can do this by using a piece of wood, or in this case I'm actually going to use a combination square. To get the length of the side casing, measure from the finished sill to the upper extension jamb reveal mark. Once cut to that measurement, install on the reveal lines, nailing into the stud with finish nails and into the extension jamb with smaller finish nails or brad nails. Now, if you were using miter trim, you would simply measure just as you did from the sill to the extension jamb reveal mark, but this time that measurement would be the short end of a 45-degree miter. From there, you could work the top piece next, measuring from the short end of the miter on the right to the left side 1/4 inch reveal mark. Once cut, install that miter joint. Lastly, the left trim piece, measure from the finished sill up to the short end of the previous miter. Mark, cut, and install. A helpful tip for fitting miter joints is not to nail too close to the current miter you're working on until you've had a chance to fit the next miter joint. That way, if you need to make any micro adjustments, you can do so before nailing it off. And I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave me a note in the comment section below. All right, back to our trim. The next step is to install the 1¼ inch half round molding, which I made in the shop from the 1x4 prime. The head casing and the apron are last, and the good thing is that they're actually the same size. To get those measurements, measure from the outside right to outside left casing and cut 2 pieces. To install, add nails into the framing header and into the sub-sill below for the apron. Well, it has been a long day, but doesn't it look good? What a difference from just the sheetrock returns to this. So a little bit of caulking, priming, painting, all of that. I think it's going to look really, really good. So if you guys have any questions, I know we covered a lot, so please hit me up in the comments section. I'll do my best to help you guys out. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.